Today, we're going to explore one of the most chilling opening sequences in modern horror cinema. The 2002 film 28 Days Later, directed by Danny Boyle, created a new template for apocalyptic horror that still resonates with audiences today. This British production begins with a scene so haunting, it became instantly iconic in the horror genre. Many viewers first encountered clips of this opening on social media platforms like YouTube and Reddit, where it continues to be analyzed and discussed as a masterclass in establishing dread and tension. The film opens in a research laboratory where we see a disturbing experiment taking place. Several chimpanzees are strapped to tables and forced to watch violent footage on multiple screens. A scientist explains that they are studying the effects of rage and aggression. The animals appear highly agitated and distressed by what they're witnessing. The sterile laboratory environment creates an immediate sense of unease, with its harsh lighting and the clinical detachment of the researchers. Meanwhile, outside the facility, a group of animal rights activists have arrived with the intention of liberating the chimpanzees from what they believe is cruel treatment. After breaking into the facility, the activists encounter a scientist who warns them desperately not to release the animals. He explains with growing panic that the chimpanzees are infected with something called rage, a highly contagious virus that transforms its hosts into mindless, violent beings driven only by aggression. The activists, skeptical of his claims and believing it to be a scare tactic, ignore his warnings. When they open one of the cages, the infected chimpanzee immediately attacks, biting one of the activists and transferring the infection. The speed and ferocity of the attack is shocking, with the animal moving with unnaturally aggressive behavior. The scene cuts to black with screams echoing, and then the title appears, 28 Days Later. We then transition to a hospital room where we meet Jim, played by Cillian Murphy. He wakes up from a coma, disoriented and alone. His hospital bed is disheveled. Medical equipment lies abandoned, and the building is eerily silent. Jim calls out for nurses or doctors, but receives no response. The hospital appears to have been hastily evacuated, with items scattered about and signs of struggle visible throughout the corridors. The silence is perhaps the most unnerving aspect, broken only by Jim's increasingly desperate calls for help. Jim makes his way through the deserted hospital, finding it completely abandoned. His confusion grows as he searches for any sign of human presence. The camera follows him through empty hallways littered with scattered papers, overturned furniture, and abandoned medical equipment. The lighting is natural, but dim, suggesting power failures. Jim, still wearing only a hospital gown, appears vulnerable and isolated as he navigates through this seemingly apocalyptic setting. His bare feet pad against the cold floor as he moves cautiously through the building. Upon leaving the hospital, Jim discovers that the abandonment extends far beyond the medical facility. The streets of London, normally bustling with traffic and pedestrians, are completely deserted. Cars sit abandoned, some with doors open, others crashed into buildings or other vehicles. Newspapers blow across empty intersections, reporting fragments of a crisis that escalated rapidly before publication ceased. Jim walks across normally busy streets without having to look for traffic. The iconic shots of him wandering through an empty London create a profound sense of isolation and wrongness. As Jim continues his journey through the abandoned city, he begins to notice disturbing signs that something catastrophic has occurred. He finds walls plastered with missing person flyers, hundreds of them overlapping in desperate attempts by loved ones to locate family members. Some public spaces appear to have been converted into makeshift shelters or triage centers before being hastily abandoned. In a church, Jim discovers the horrifying truth. Rows of corpses fill the pews, but as he investigates further, he realizes with growing terror that not all the bodies are truly dead. A priest, showing signs of the infection, attacks Jim with inhuman speed and strength. His eyes are blood red, his movements jerky and animalistic. Jim narrowly escapes the church, running in panic through the streets. The infected priest pursues him relentlessly, showing no signs of tiring or rational thought. The chase sequence highlights the terrifying nature of the threat. The infected aren't slow, shambling zombies, but fast, aggressive predators driven by uncontrollable rage. Just as the infected priest is about to catch Jim, two survivors appear and rescue him. Selena and Mark, equipped with improvised weapons and protective gear, quickly dispatch the infected priest with shocking efficiency. They show no hesitation or remorse, having clearly adapted to this new reality where mercy can be fatal. They take Jim to their secure hideout, a fortified apartment in a mostly abandoned building. There they begin to explain what has happened during Jim's coma. A virus, referred to as rage, spread throughout the population with frightening speed. The infection is transmitted through blood and saliva, with symptoms appearing within seconds of exposure. Selena explains to Jim that the government collapsed within weeks, and most people either fled the cities or succumbed to the infection. Those who remain uninfected live in constant fear, moving carefully to avoid attracting the attention of the infected who roam the streets. She tells him, with cold practicality, that if someone shows signs of infection, you have about 20 seconds to kill them before they turn. Her hardened attitude reflects the brutal new reality they inhabit. Mark adds that they've heard rumors of a military blockade somewhere outside the city, possibly offering safety, but the journey would be extremely dangerous. As night falls, the survivors prepare for darkness, which brings increased danger. The infected become more active after sunset, and their heightened senses make them even more effective hunters in the dark. Jim, still processing everything he's learned, watches as Selena and Mark set up elaborate security measures, tripwires with attached noisemakers, blackout curtains to prevent any light from escaping, and weapons placed strategically throughout their shelter. The contrast between the mundane apartment setting and these apocalyptic precautions creates a surreal atmosphere of domestic horror. During the night, they hear distant screams and the sounds of running feet, punctuated by the distinctive, animalistic howls of the infected. Jim, unable to sleep, watches through a small gap in the curtains as shadowy figures move through the streets below. Occasionally, the beam of a flashlight reveals other survivors making their way carefully through the urban landscape. The tension builds as one such group attracts the attention of the infected. resulting in screams and sounds of violence that gradually fade into silence. Jim realizes with growing horror that this is now everyday reality. Morning brings momentary relief, but also new challenges. The group needs to find food and supplies, which means venturing out into the dangerous city streets. They prepare methodically, checking weapons and planning their route to minimize exposure. Their communication is minimal and efficient, a testament to the new social dynamics of survival. As they exit their shelter, the bright daylight reveals more of the transformed cityscape, nature beginning to reclaim urban spaces, abandoned vehicles becoming makeshift barriers, and the ominous signs of past violence evident in dried bloodstains and bullet holes. The trio moves through the city with practiced caution, using hand signals and maintaining constant vigilance. They approach a small convenience store that appears relatively untouched, a potential source of valuable supplies. As they enter, the familiar setting of retail shelves creates a jarring contrast with the apocalyptic situation. Jim, still adjusting to this new world, makes a rookie mistake. He knocks over a display, creating noise that echoes through the silent store. Selena and Mark freeze, listening intently for any response to the sound. After tense moments of silence, they resume gathering supplies, filling backpacks with non-perishable food items, medications, and batteries. Jim discovers a warm chocolate bar, a small luxury that momentarily brightens his expression. This brief moment of normalcy is shattered when they hear rapid footsteps approaching from the back of the store. An infected person, formerly a store employee based on the tattered uniform, charges toward them with mindless aggression. Mark reacts quickly, swinging a baseball bat with practiced precision, but not before the infected manages to wound him. The injury appears minor, a scratch on Mark's arm, but the implications are devastating. Blood has been drawn, creating the possibility of infection. Selena watches Mark with clinical detachment, counting seconds silently as they quickly exit the store and find temporary shelter in a nearby abandoned office building. Mark insists he feels fine, showing no symptoms, but perspiration beads on his forehead. Jim watches the interaction with growing unease, beginning to understand the brutal calculus of survival in this new world. Selena's expression hardens as Mark's breathing becomes more labored and his eyes begin to show the telltale reddening of infection. Without warning, she strikes with her machete, ending Mark's life before his transformation completes. Jim recoils in horror at her actions, but Selena calmly explains, "That's how it is. You get infected. You have about 20 seconds. If someone gets infected, you kill them immediately." Her matter-of-fact tone underscores how thoroughly this apocalypse has transformed human relationships and moral frameworks. Left with just the two of them, Selena and Jim must now reconsider their plans. The loss of Mark changes their tactical capabilities and survival dynamics. As they discuss next steps, they notice flashing lights coming from a high-rise apartment building in the distance. The regular pattern suggests an intentional signal rather than random electrical failures. This discovery offers a fragile hope. There might be more survivors, possibly even an organized group with better resources and security. However, reaching the distant building would require traveling across several kilometers of infected-filled city streets. After debating the risks, they decide to attempt reaching the source of the light signals. Their journey takes them through increasingly dangerous territory, including a subway tunnel that offers a direct route, but also limited visibility and escape options. The darkness of the tunnel is oppressive, broken only by the narrow beams of their flashlights. Water drips from the ceiling, and strange echoes suggest movement in the darkness beyond their vision. Jim's breathing becomes audible as anxiety tightens his chest, while Selena maintains a vigilant calm born of experience.